And now it's time to summon a grand jury over this week's biggest bogon emitter. And for the very first time, the DEA has done what they've been threatening to do for years. They've arrested pharmaceutical executives over the opioid crisis. And the news media, as per usual, has been mindlessly cheering it on without any trace of skepticism. But make no mistake, as we've covered before, the idea of there being an opioid epidemic that's the result of greedy pharmaceutical companies having doctors run pill mill to pain patients and those recovering from surgery, and it all results in all these deaths from overdose, is nothing but a pack of lies. Rochester Drug Cooperative supplies wholesale pharmaceuticals to retail pharmacies in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They've just been charged with a $20 million fine, and 2 of their former executives have been arrested on charges of drug trafficking. The 2 men ran their drug empire from a secret bunker where hitmen were used to threaten other drug suppliers and establish their gang turf in— No, I'm kidding. They didn't do anything remotely like that. Although you might think so to hear U.S. Attorney Jeffrey S. Berman talk about it, he vowed that his office would, quote, do everything in its power to combat this epidemic, from street-level dealers to the executives who illegally distribute drugs from their boardrooms. Of the 2 men, he said, why did they do it? Greed. Gotta love how they can throw the word greed in when what they're really talking about is just making money. Yes, they made a profit for their company. That's what they're supposed to do. In addition to conspiracy to distribute drugs and conspiracy to defraud the United States, the 2 men are charged with failing to file suspicious order reports. So apparently if a pharmacy orders some oxycodone from them, they're supposed to analyze that order to see if it's suspicious and then report it. In other words, they have to be unpaid law enforcement investigators for the federal government, just to stay in business. Fourth Amendment be damned. They claim that RDC sold fentanyl to pharmacies that they knew were turning around and selling on the black market. So you might think that, yeah, these guys were being a little unsavory, but it's completely ridiculous that these things are even illegal to begin with. The reason for so much addiction and overdose is the stupid, insane war on drugs, not the drugs themselves. This comes just 5 days after 60 doctors, pharmacists, and other licensed professionals were charged with prescribing more than 32 million pain pills. Gotta love how they count the total pills, not the number of prescriptions or doses or something like that. Gotta keep that number scary high. There have also been 1,600 cases against Purdue Pharma and other manufacturers of opioids, which will be tried in the Northern District of Ohio. So here's one lie from CNBC. Overdoses on prescription opioids have taken more than 20,000 lives in the last 2 decades, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That is absolutely and completely wrong. This figure covers not only prescription opioids, but also opioids obtained on the black market. Most of them didn't even have a prescription. The fact is, if you're prescribed opioids from a doctor, you have less than a 1% chance of becoming addicted and an overdose risk of less than 0.2%. But you'll never hear that from politicians or the mainstream media. Something else you'll never hear is that an overwhelming majority of these overdoses are from people abusing other drugs such as alcohol. So it's not just illicit black market opioids, but the fact that people are drinking alcohol with them as well. And that combination can be deadly. Also, most people who overdose have a history of mental illness. The war on drugs does these people no good. All it does is make them reluctant to seek help, since it would mean admitting to a federal crime, one the feds are very serious about enforcing. The numbers for opioid overdose have been soaring upward, even as the number of prescriptions has been plummeting, as we've covered before. The DEA and the U.S. Attorney's Office want to point the finger at other people to cover up for the fact that their moronic war on drugs fails and fails again, and in fact makes things worse as they continue to torture pain patients and interfere with the decisions of licensed medical professionals, and a complicit news media happily passes along their bogus propaganda. So that makes all of them this week's biggest bogon emitter.